This week, multiple governments across Europe relaxed lockdown restrictions. However, a lot of people are actually criticizing the pace, the steady, cautious pace at which these lockdown restrictions are being relaxed, as governments try to balance the need to avoid economic collapse with the moral imperative to protect the most vulnerable in our society. Giles Keating is here with us today. And I'd like to start by asking you, is there a more elegant solution to the current situation?
Look, I think the key is to exit the lockdown at a speed which depends on data from tests. And it should be symmetric. So you don't just slow down if the data look bad, you speed up quite a lot if the data look good. At the moment, governments in Europe are planning to go really slowly. And I think the restrictions will destroy lots of businesses like restaurants, for example.
Yeah. So everyone's talking about data, and mostly you hear the R0, right? The number of new infections caused by each person that has COVID. Is that what you're talking about?
Look, I think the R0 is important, of course, the kind of infection rate. But I think the intense spotlight on it means we're missing other issues. What we need to know is how much of the population is already immune. So if only 10% of the population is already immune, then clearly you have to keep R0 really, really low. But if, 60% of the population has already acquired immunity somehow, then in fact, you can have an R0 much higher, around about 1, could even be allowed to nudge above 1, just at least briefly.
Okay. So as an analogy, it's like a fire, right? If it has nothing to burn, that has an impact, yeah?
I think that's exactly right. If much of the population is already immune, then an accelerating inflation rate simply can't last very long. It's like kind of the last log on a fire at night. You sometimes get a big flame just, spurts up briefly, and then it all just dies down again very rapidly.
So, this is also the biggest unknown, and this is what makes the modeling of all of these forecasts so difficult, because no one knows how much of the population is already immune.
Of course, yeah. No, we need this famous antibody test. So not the standard test, the antibody test. And of course, those show, has somebody already got the antibodies that give them the immunity?
But do these antibodies really give immunity? There's been a lot of conflicting news, including from the World Health Organization, that there was a lot of uncertainty about that.
Well, look, the WHO is saying it's not proven. But in fact, if you look at the balance of evidence, it is very, very likely. In previous outbreaks of similar viruses, the antibodies do give broad immunity. And this time around, the number of cases of reinfection that have been reported is just virtually negligible.
So how do you get these antibodies? Very pragmatically, how can I imagine this? Is it from having the illness and then recovering? Do you automatically get the antibodies then? How do you get these?
Well, yes, you do. That is one way. You have the illness and you get better. But in fact, I think statistically far, far more important is that you kind of get infected, but you don't become ill in the conventional sense. You're what they call asymptomatic. You're infected but have no symptoms. And I think the interesting thing is that there is potentially a very, very large number of people who are in that kind of situation.
Can I press you for more details? When you say very large, what do you mean? What should I think about large? Are we talking about 1%, 2%, 10%?
Potentially, it could easily be 40, 50, 60% of the population or more who are not no longer vulnerable. And how could that be? Well, you look back to past viruses, past similar events, that by this stage, that's the kind of number you would be expecting. But look, to be honest, with COVID, the shocking thing is we simply don't know. And in order to work out the pace of lockdown, or relieving of lockdown, we've just got to find out urgently.
So it's really about testing, testing, testing. On Sunday, in the Swiss television, Roche, Severin Schwan announced that Roche had an antibody test that was 99.8% accurate. Is that sort of going to be our saving grace to get more information on this?
Yes, I think that is just absolutely crucial. And that particular test does sound fantastic. There are one or two others maybe worth, but the Roche one looks particularly good. And I think now is the crucial time to start using those tests, test for the antibodies. And the way to do it is to take a sample of, say, 10,000 people who are just randomly chosen, cross-section of apparently healthy people. And if that, in each country, and if that turns out to have a very high number of people, 50, 60% with antibodies, then you know that you can actually ease the lockdown more quickly. And you keep doing that every couple of weeks to just see where it's going to. And really, I think that's the only way. If you do see all those people who are immune, you can ease the lockdowns really pretty fast, and then you save the economy in a safe way.
So it's really about accelerating the relaxation process or decelerating depending on the degree of immunity in the society that one is looking at.
I think that is absolutely critical. Of course, you keep an eye on the R0, the infection rate as well, but the two things must be put together. You can run a higher R0 if it's the case that more people are immune. That's what you need to have.